And similarly, the power output of the solar park, it depends on the solar irradiation, available solar irradiations. And also these wind speed and solar irradiation, they are not fixed like a as a weather dependent parameter. They are uncertain and variable in the nature. So that's why the power output of the renewable energy sources, particularly the wind and solar also, they are not a very smooth. They are variable. And if you integrate this variable generation into the existing electrical grid, then it creates a lot of challenges and a lot of problem. And these challenges are not very significant if our penetration level is very low, then they are not a major problem. But in case if the renewable penetration, and look at in the future, if in case the renewable penetration is very high, then this variability and this uncertain nature of the wind generator, they create a lot of problem in the power system operation and as well as the planning problems. So these are the some problems, like it creates the disturbance in the voltage and the frequency. They required because to meet out the load, electrical load, it required the reserve capacity, because the reserve capacity will be increased because of this renewable penetration. And also because of the network constraint, because of the some network related issues, sometimes we need to curtail also renewable power generation. It could be create the congestion in the network, it could be create the stability problem. And also we know nowadays in the power system or electricity system are working in the market environment, so they also affect the market operations, because the electricity market is designed for a conventional power producer like a thermal and nuclear and hydro. But these by integration of these sources and the market partition of this also it is challenging. Now what will be the possible solutions? So one of the main solution, the forecasting. If our forecasting is very accurate in our desired time step or our desired time horizon, then these with some extent or the most extent we can mitigate these problems. But it's we know accurate forecasting is also not possible. Now another reason if unset our forecasting is not accurate, so because we have somehow mathematical tools to address this uncertainty, and with the consideration of this uncertainty we can make the better decisions, or we can use the probabilistic forecasting, we can make the we can take the like a use the stochastic programming or like other like a robust programming approach, or more like we can use this approach like to make the more better decision under the uncertainties. Then like a system operator point of view, we need to enhance our system flexibility. So we have the another sources, they can balance the load, like another storage we have the fast ramping products, we can have the fast ramping RAM providers. So or also we have the demand, we need the demand response. So these additional flexibility, if you increase the flexibility, then we can manage the grid. And also the solution we can design, we can redesign the market to integrate these high renewable penetration in the power system. And also we can like a design a market like efficient operation. We can reduce the renewable power curtailment, we can maximize the use of this renewable energy, and we can launch new products like a fast RAM products in a market, or the different market framework like a day ahead market, intraday market, real time market, and like a energy ancillary services market. So these new product can help me in the market design, can help to accommodate this large renewable energy in a power system. And also we know that network is played a very important role. if you develop install the new wind farms, new solar park, and new everything you can install, but without use of the without developing the transmission network or the distribution network, we can't utilize this energy. So for utilization point of view, the network planning, particularly transmission network planning, is also very important. So this is the basic background. So why the renewable power is integrated and what are the problems? Now I briefly discuss here my research work. So we already did the work we are still doing in the work in these 5 domains. And we working on the forecasting of the renewable generators, wind and solar, and we also working on the uncertainty modelings. For the forecasting, we are using the time series model and the machine learning models. And for the uncertainty modeling, we are model uncertainty through the interval forecasting, and by using the scenario generation and it's a probabilistic forecasting. So by using scenario generation and reduction, and for a multiple wind farms, we are modeling the dependency of this multiple wind farm by using this copula theory. Then we also working on the problem of the strategic bidding of wind power producers. If you develop the market for the renewable energy sources, or they already exist in the European countries, so how the wind power producer can bid in the market, and how we can they sell their power into the market. So we are working on this strategic bidding of wind power producers, and for the methodology, we are working on the game theory models. That is the Carnot game theory model. Sorry. For the system operator perspective, we are working on the frequency response. As we know, the power in a power system at every time instant, the active power balance should be there. It means the total generation should be equal to the total demand. If this mismatch is there, then frequency will be varying, and frequency should be within the limits. Otherwise, as we know, our generators are synchronized with the grid with a constant frequency. So with the integration of these renewable sources, you can see they are uncertain, and they also like a solar park. They are not a synchronous machine. They does not have the inertia capability. So if you integrate the inverter-based generators in a power system, they are not a rotating machine. So they overall reduce the inertia of the grid. So if there is a disturbance is there, any contingency is there, then you can see the very large variation. Or if the grid does not have the significant inertia capability, then there will be the blackout, or the frequency never be stabilized. So what is the effect of the renewable integration on the frequency, and how the frequency is the model in the scheduling problem? So that we also working on this field. And also we are working on the flexible RAM product that is related to the flexibility. So how separately the RAM product will be designed in the market, or that traded in the market, so that can help to requirement of the large frequent ramping. As we know, when sun is rise and sunset, those if the in the grid we have the very large solar power penetration, then at that time we are significantly ramping up or ramp down is required. So that is flexible RAM product that help in this meet out this ramping requirement. And also we are working on the energy storage, that is the compressed energy storage, compressed air energy storage, and also what is the role of the energy storage to mitigate the uncertainty, and role of the storage to manage the grid. So the modeling of the energy storage in stochastic SCUC problem that we are working in this field. So these are the main research challenges that we address in our research, and these are the basically these are the what is the relation between these challenges. So you can see the uncertainty modeling and forecasting, it's input to the other challenges that we have addressed, like SCUC, flexibility RAM product, frequency response. So uncertainty modeling, like these are the common, it's a common in all these challenges. And in this presentation, I just first I briefly discuss, because some of the participants, I think they are not aware about the electricity market operations. So I briefly give idea about the market operations, how the market is operated. Then I give the brief idea about the forecasting and the uncertainty modeling. I'll give the brief idea about the price may how the problem of the strategic bidding of the wind power producers, and something discuss about the frequency response. So these three I'll discuss in this presentation. Okay, so let me start with the some basic part. Let first we discuss. So what is the how the evolving power system is working? What is the working of the evolving power system? So in this diagram, you can see earlier, you can see in the power system, there are three parts: generation, transmission, and distribution. Power is generated by the generators, and it is transmitted for the longer distance to the transmission line, and then it's distributed in the areas. Then finally, it reaches to the consumer. So there are, you can see the four parts: generation, transmission, and distribution, and finally we are the consumers. In the conventional power system, all these three operations, generation, transmission, and distribution, they are managed by a single utility. That is called the vertically integrated utility, or that is the government owned. So all these operations are managed by the single utility. So there is no competition. It's a very simple format. And you can see the direction of the power flow as the power generated by generator, and it reaches to the consumer. So power flow from generator to the consumer through the transmission and distribution network, and money is flow from the consumer to the utility. So it's a very simple format. But now we can see our electricity demands is continuously growing, and so that's why to fulfill this growing demand, we need to invest in the generation side, we need to invest in the transmission and distribution, and we need to develop the new power plants, install the new transmission line, new distribution lines. So that is not cost effective or not possible for this structure. So to meet the or also you can see in this, the quality of the supply is also very poor. Consumer does not have any choices. So after from the motivated from the other sector like a telecom sector and other sector, in this power system, in the power sector also, they start the restructuring, or the government start the introducing the competition in the power sector, particularly primarily from the generation side. So they are restructuring this utility, vertically integrated utility, and they are allowing the competition in the generation side and the consumer side, or later on consumer side also. So by they are introducing the like in make the different generation companies, they are introducing the allow the private players, or they are called independent power producers. So they are allowing the independent power producer in generation side. So the private player can develop their plant and they can sell the electricity, or they can do the business in this sector. So they are creating the competition in the generation side. Then to manage this type of the structure, there are further new entities will also introduces. So these entities like a market operator or the power exchange, and another entity is the TSO called the transmission system operator, and ISO means the independent system operator, and retailers, distribution companies, discos, aggregators, and the consumers. Now, what is the function of this market operator and power exchange? They can manage the financial operation of this like a wholesale market. They are responsible. They call the bids. They're taking the bids from the generators, the generation companies, and also they are taking the bids from the consumer side, or now in our country we have the distribution companies. So they can also bid in the market operator, power exchanges, to sell the electricity. So that financial operation it managed by the power exchange. Then what is the role of the ISO and the TSO? TSO, the primary role of the TSO is to manage the system stability, or the system security is managed by the ISO. In our country, we are adopting the European model. So we have the multiple power exchanges and the single independent system operator. So in power exchange, we have the Indian Energy Exchange, IEX, and also PXIL, Power Exchange India Limited. And ISO is a POSOCO. POSOCO work as a independent system operator, or NLDC, National Load Dispatch Center. So, and you can see to manage this system, there is proper coordination between the ISO and the power exchange. It will be required, because after finalizing the schedule, they send to the schedule to the ISO. ISO perform their unit commit their OPF, optimal power flow program, and they ensure this schedule is feasible. There's no limits is violated. So they confirm, after they confirm, they can convey the schedule to all participants. Now, you can see the retailers and discos in our country, mostly Discom like work a retailer, but in some other country, retailer is a different entity. They they purchase electricity from the wholesale market with the variable rate, and they can sell electricity to the small consumer in a fixed rate or the flat rate. So retailer is an intermediate entity between the wholesale market and the small consumers. Large consumers, they can directly purchase electricity from the wholesale market, but small consumer are not. And like a aggregators, also like a aggregator, they also have the set of like consumers, or they can also aggregator like they have set of consumers. They can negotiate the retailers. In future, you can see our country, we have the multiple retailers like a mobile phone, different service providers. So we can choose. So I like aggregator. It's like between the they are not a small. They are just negotiate between the retailer and consumers. So this is the structure. Now you can see again there is nothing changed in the power flow. The only change in the flow of the money. Now money from retailers to power exchange to the joint consolidation companies. And also you can see the information flow between retailers, aggregator, this one, and the coordination between market operator and ISO. So now you can see, so what is requirement of this structure to improve the consumer benefits and to improve the system efficiency? We restructure this conventional power system to the restructured power system, wholesale competition we introduce. Now, in this structure, so there are, you can see electricity market is formulated at first is the wholesale market, and if the multiple retailers, the retail market also formulated. Now, how this structure will be work, or how the electricity market will be work. So before, let me discuss the different type of the electricity market. So what is the electricity market? It is a collection of the arrangement of sales and purchase of electricity. And competitive means we are determining the prices by meeting the supply and demand curve, like a power, like a supply demand curve. If there is no competition, multiple players are there, sellers are there, buyers are there, but price is not determined through the competition, then they are not called the competitive electricity market, or there are maybe the bilateral contract. So now you can see the classification. The electricity market can be classified as like a 4 different type based on the commodity. We can market maybe energy market, ancillary services market, and the financial transmission right market. So in energy, our electricity is energy is a commodity. Ancillary services like these services other than energy, like reserve services, reactive power, and regulation services. So these are the blackout capability. So these are the ancillary services. Active are related to the It's a tool for the reduction of the risk, and it's a financial transmission right. So that is the another commodity. Now, based on the trading, that is the bilateral contract, power pool and hybrid. Bilateral contract means seller and the buyers, they can make the bilateral contract for a longer duration, for the longer time. Or nowadays in our country, we have mostly like a discount company, they have the bilateral contract with the different generation companies, like a government companies. So most of the power is traded through the bilateral contracts. Remaining power is traded in the wholesale markets or power exchanges. So in a bilateral contract, there are no role of market, power exchanges, no role of the third party. Now power pool, it's a centralized market. And the hybrid model is the combination of this bilateral and the pool model. Now, based on the number of the participants, the market can be classified in like this a competition, different type of the model of the competition. So there are three types: monopoly, oligopolistic, and the perfect competition. Monopoly means only single supplier. No, there are no choices like a vertically integrated power utility structure. Oligopolistic like in multiple players, but not infinite, not too large. So our power system is nowadays our market is oligopolistic market. Perfect competition, it means there is a very large number of the players, or it's a perfectly market, or one more difference like in oligopolistic and perfect competition. In oligopolistic market, all the market participants are the price takers. It means they cannot be affect the market prices. But in the perfect competition, some players are the like a price maker. They have the market power, and they can able to manipulate, or they can able to influence the market prices through their strategies. So that is the perfect oligopolistic market. And based on the competition in the wholesale and the retail market. Not discuss detail very too much. Now, as you know, if you trade electricity as a commodity in a market, but you can see the electricity have the very unique characteristic and a very different nature other than the like other commodity, like our mobile phone, it's a commodity. What is the difference? Because electricity, as you know, for the electricity at every time instant, its supply should be equal to the demand to maintain the constant frequency. And another reason, we cannot store electricity in the very large amount or in the bulk amount. Bulk storage of electricity is not possible. And third difference, you can see the electricity is flow in the network through the by following the physical laws like a KVL, KCL. It's not a predetermined route. It follow according to the like in our network configuration. So because of these characteristics, their electricity is a unique commodity or is a different commodity. So there are we are not able to like sell at a real time. So you can see the market. There are different markets are developed like a based on different timeline. For example, this is the time where actual or the power physically power is delivered in the network, and you can see before the actual time of the delivery, you can see the before an hour the real time market or called the balancing market, before some hours like 4 hours and 8 hours, that is intraday market, before a day, that is the day ahead market, and before a year, month, or like a long term contract, that is financial forward market. In power exchange in our country, we also the day and the balancing market. So the all generators, all consumers, they are submitted bid before a day of the actual power delivery in the day ahead market. Then market is clear, prices are determined. Then it is come to the real like a real time market. If any mismatch between the hour, then again the mismatch will be traded in the balancing market. Then after at this moment, then again if there is some mismatch, then it's balanced by our like ADC services, automated generation control, and like user capacity. So that will be balanced at that time. So that if any participant creates the mismatch, in from their contracted power to the delivered power. So there are some imbalance settlement mechanism. This mechanism is also different in different countries. It's not a uniform throughout the world. Some countries, the imbalance system based on the frequency. Some countries, this imbalance is based on the active power delivery, and the prices also depends on the what is the system balance. System have the surplus power or system have the deficit power. So in different countries, they have the different type of imbalance mechanism. So this is the general timeline for the day-ahead market operations. Sorry, electricity market operations. And mostly our work can focus on the day-ahead market. Or you can see because of the characteristic of electricity, most of the power, the 80 to like 80% power should be traded in the day-ahead market. Only the 20% power is traded in the balancing market because of the ramping limit also, ramping limit of the generators. So, and other limits. Most of the power is traded in the day-ahead market. Yes. Now, let me discuss the market mechanism. And this mechanism, it's a very common mechanism I explain here, common for the renewable generators, wind, solar, and other conventional generators. So in a new market, in a new framework, each suppliers, they have to submit their selling bid. Bid means they are, it's a, for each an hour, they are like a offer, they have quantity and the prices. So this bid is submitted to the system or market operator, or in some countries, ISO work as a power exchange, like a US. There are no power exchange or ISO, they are not a separate entity, they are single entities. But our country, they are different. So they are submitted to the power exchanges for a particular time. Like a different bidding blocks in our country, bid block size is 15 minutes. So total 96 blocks are there. But in some countries, bidding block is hourly bidding, so 24 blocks are there. So for a next day, for a full time, for a all time blocks, generators need to submit the supply bid to the power exchange. Similarly, consumers or like a discoms or retailers, they submit their buy bid to the power exchange. Then once the gate closure, or the after the gate closure, their power exchange are not accepting any bids. So after the gate closure, now the power exchange, they are utilizing their market clearing mechanism, and they determine the prices of each bidding block or each bidding time intervals, and that called the market clearing prices. And then market prices, then they get the money, generator get the money according to the market price, MCP. But again, it's a pricing mechanism. In like a some countries, they have the uniform pricing mechanism, and some countries have the pay as bid pricing mechanism. Pricing means if we have the uniform pricing mechanism, then generator and consumer get the price for the electricity according to the market clearing price, not according to the bid prices. But in the pay as bid mechanism, they are getting the prices according to their bid prices. So in a these three are the pillar of the market, or like a three main segment of the market is the bidding, market, bidding, clearing, and the pricing. There are three main segments of electricity market. So generators are submit their bids according to maximize their profit. Market is clear to the aim of the social welfare maximum. I'll discuss what is the meaning of social welfare. And then participant get the prices according to the pricing mechanism. Now, who are the bidding participant? So there are, this is the broad classification: supply side, demand side, and the both of the side. Supply side, they are generators. So they are thermal generators, renewable power producers, pump storage, hydropower plants. Hybrid means the combination of thermal and other like a heat and power, combined heat and power producers. And nowadays, one more concept like a virtual power plant, not in our country, but in the research now they are using the virtual power plant. It means the very small plant. They are interfaced with the grid, main grid at the different buses. They can make commonly they are make like a single plant, or they can bid like a single plant. So that is called the virtual power plant. They are not, this is not a single unit or single plant. So that is the virtual power plant. And demand side, retailers can bid, this retail or discom distribution companies. Large consumer, they can bid in wholesale market. We are talking here about the only wholesale market, not retail market. And nowadays, the both of the side, nowadays they are also called, they are prosumers. It means they can behave like a producers, or they can like a consumers, like a microgrid, energy storage, EV aggregators. If like because of the storage and their local generation capability, if they have the access of the power, they can supply it to a grid. So they like behave like a supplier, but then they have the deficit of power, they can consume the power from the grid. So they behave like a consumers. So these can behave like both consumer and the supplier. So that's why they call the prosumers, or they call the both sides, supply side or demand side, they can bid. So these are the market participants. Okay, now let me discuss what is the bid format of the bid, or what is the, how we can define the bids and offer. So bid, there are two types of the bidding mechanism. Now one is the block bidding, or another is the curve bidding, linear curve bidding. But among this, first one is the more very popular, or in our country also have this type of the this type of the format of the bid. So in a block bidding, it's a stack of megawatt level with the corresponding prices. So for each bidding interval, each generation company and the supplier, or the like a discom company, they have to submit the bid in their multiple blocks also allowed. So they can decide what is the quantity and the prices. Or they are not open. They are like a sealed bid. Only the market operator know how much quantity and price you claim. Other similar participant or your rival does not know about this information. And generator or the consumer have the flexibility, they can decide this price and quantity, and also they can decide this number also. But there is some cap, like I think is 8 bidding blocks are allowed. So up to the 8 bidding blocks they can divide bid blocks, they can submit for a particular time. So so each generator and consumer, they have to submit the bid this bid block to the system market operators. Now as a supplier side, these as you know, the private player, if want to gain the profit in the market, so their prices should always be higher than their marginal prices. If you the bid on the marginal prices, then there is no get any benefit, or there is no profit. So with the aim of the profit maximization, they always offer their prices above their marginal cost. But like this is a decision making problem. You have need to optimize what is your bidding quantity, and you have to optimize the prices. If your prices is higher than market prices, then you lost the bid. So the very carefully or very optimal manner we have to decide this quantity and the price. Or in a linear block, there are slope is there, curve is there. So slope we can submit, but nowadays it's not very popular. So in the red one, you can see it's a marginal, actual marginal cost. and the black one is the submitted prices. So if the submitted price above than this one, then they get the benefit. Yes, so we are not randomly submit the bids. We have to strategically define this number of the blocks and quantity and the prices to achieve our goal or to achieve the benefit. So that strategically determine of this prices, bid price and the bid quantity. So that is called the strategic bidding. And this strategic bidding, it depends on the market structure, what are the auction rules and the bidding protocols. Okay, let me discuss first the auctions. Auction means how we can determine market operator is determine the market prices. So as I told earlier, consumers, suppliers submitted the bids to the market operator, and thereafter market operator can arrange supply bids in the increasing order and demands bid in the decreasing order. If both of supply and consumer side they are bid, so they are called the double-sided bidding auction. Or only the supplier is bid, then it's called the single-sided bidding. In this diagram you can see. And where these two curves intersect to each other, this point of this interaction, it is called the market clearing price. And the quantity at this point is called the market clearing quantity. Now you can see, if you can see why we are arranging the supply bids in the increasing order and why we are arranging demand in the decreasing order, because our preferences goes to who want to sell the electricity with the minimum prices and who want to purchase electricity for the maximum prices. So that they are on the top priority. And if your prices is higher than, you can see for a supply side, if the prices are lower than this MCP, they are accepted, other higher than MCP, they are rejected. Similarly, demand side bid, your prices is higher than MCP, they are accepted, and this part is rejected. Okay, let we discuss this process. This is a market clearing process, or how we can determine the market clearing prices, like simple supply demand balance curve. So let we discuss with the help of one example. So suppose we have the three generation companies A, B, and C, and similarly we have three distribution company C, D, and F, D, E, and F. And there are three, for each participant there are three bidding blocks. So for generation company A, A1, A2, A3, B, B1, B2, B3, and so on. And these are the price and the quantity. They can decide by your own, but for example, these are the price and the quantity. Now they submit the bid to the system operator. So they are arranging the bids, supply bid in the increasing order, consumer bid side in the decreasing order. You can see this is aggregated supply curve, aggregated demand curve. And at the interaction of this point, you can see for this these bidding, MCP is a 2500 rupees per megawatt hour, and quantity is 1000 megawatt for this particular time. And you can see the bid below this MCP, they are accepted, and above are rejected supply bids. And similarly, demand green curve, you can see F3, E3, and D3 are accepted, and other are they rejected. So if they are rejected in the day-ahead market, you have the choices. You can again further you can trade in the real-time market. Now mathematically, this problem is model as a like a optimization problem, subjected to the maximization of the social welfare. That is the difference. This is area. This area is not a social welfare. The summation of the like a consumer and the supplier circles. that is the social welfare, and subjected to the like a power balance constraint, like all power flow constraint, network constraint, like a limit of the transmission line, what are the like a power flow constraint, basically active and reactive power balance constraint, generator limits, and the demand side limits. So mathematically, we are model this market clearing problem as the optimization problem, and the MCP is the dual of the power supply balance constraint. The dual of the supply balance constraint is the market clearing price. Or like you understand, like a simple like economic load dispatch. If you are from the electrical background, they are very comfortable with the economic load dispatch. So there are three generators. We find out the value of the lambda. So that is incremental cost. Incremental cost. They are at the equal incremental cost. We find out what is the value of the lambda. So similarly here, like a power balance. So that dual variable is the known as the that is equal to the market clearing price. Or you can see the one more example. This is the practical I'm taking from the Power Indian Energy Exchange. So they are for particular time. This is bidding block, MCP and MCV delivery time, what is the period, number of the buy bids 631 and supply bid is 151. So in similar manner, they find out what is the market clearing price. Yes. After the market clearing price, how the system market operator give the payment to the generator and other participant. So there are three methods, three types of the pricing. Broadly, there are two type pricing, uniform and the pay as bid. Further, uniform three types like uniform marginal price, zonal marginal price, and the locational marginal price. In our country, we are adopting this uniform pricing mechanism or zonal pricing mechanism, JMP. In this uniform pricing, it's related to the network. If or related to the congestion. If there is no congestion in the network, then the prices are uniform throughout the network. That is UMP, or that is equals to market clearing price. But in case of the congestion, then these prices will be different, or the congestion charges are included in the prices. So the zonal prices level, there are prices added in the zonal level, or in a nodal pricing scheme, these price congestion charges are added at the bus level or node level. Each type of the pricing has some pros and cons. Like a simple uniform pricing are simple, adopted in the many countries. This type of mechanism adopted in the Iranian electricity market. But the problem, it has the higher volatility as compared to this one. They are more volatile. And this is the table from what are the different pricing mechanism adopted in different countries. Our country, we have this general marginal pricing scheme, and US also, they have the nodal pricing scheme, LMP, locational marginal pricing scheme. Now in our country, we can see our complete power network, complete country are divided into 13 bidding blocks or in the bid areas. Not like our power network, our complete grid, it divided into 5 regions, like in north region, west region, south, and the northeast, and the east. But they are complete, they are divided into 13 bidding areas, or these are the state or the regions cover the bidding areas. Now I told earlier, if there are no congestion in the any area, then prices are uniform, or that is equal to the MCP. But in case you can see also in the diagram, I take this is plot for a IEX market clearing, day ahead market clearing prices for a day. First Jan 2016. Then in the circle you can see, here you can see there are no congestion. So all these prices are overlapped to each other. But in the if you have the congestion in the network, then you can see prices are different. Or in the circle you can see. Now yes. Now you can see the bidding mechanism and the pricing mechanism. So prices for sorry. For each bidding block, the market operator determine the prices. So prices are not fixed; they are depending on what are the prices submitted by the different participants. So they are not fixed; they are volatile, or you can see the variability. Prices vary from 1,000 to the 5,000 rupees per megawatt hour. And also the prices are not same for the same years, same pattern. You can see the different year. Or prices are when demand is higher, then price is obviously higher. So during the festival season, you can see the demand is higher in our country. So we have the peak prices here. We can observe the peak prices during these festival seasons. Okay, so now this is the market framework. Now, if the renewable generators like wind and solar, they want to participate in the market, so they are how the completely different challenges. As a conventional generator, there are no variability. Their generation is fixed, so they can easily determine or just optimize their price and quantity. They decide these formulate these bids. But as a renewable generators, the major issue, their generation is not fixed. So if they want to participate in the market, so first of all, they should be they forecast their generation, and they based on their forecasting accuracy, based on the forecasting, they can make the further decisions, or they can optimize their bids. So here now we are discussing what is the forecasting. So forecasting is nothing but just we want to predict the new future values by using the historical values or the past values of the past observation. We can develop any model, and based on this model we can predict the future values. So if you predict the single value, so that is called a single one step ahead forecasting, two values two step ahead or n step ahead forecasting, or this step size maybe the second, month, hour, year, or in hour like 50 minutes. So each step size is 50 minutes. Based on what is your step size and what is your forecasting horizon. The forecasting, particularly we are talking about the wind power forecasting. So forecasting is divided in three models are divided in the four categories. Very short-term wind forecasting, short-term wind forecasting, medium-term, and the long-term wind forecasting. Very short-term time scale from second to minutes. For hours to day, short-term, days to week, medium-term, and weeks to for the year is the long-term. We are focusing on short-term or very short-term forecasting. And step size for very short-term, either should be 5 minutes or 1 minutes. Short-term 15, 30 minute or hourly time step data will be there. Monthly, hourly or daily, or for the long-term daily, monthly or yearly average value we can take. Now in a forecasting, again forecasting is a very active area of the research, and lot of people are doing a lot of work already have been done in this area, and lot of model have been developed, So these forecasting techniques or model, here I am not give the very detailed like classification, but it's a broad classification of the techniques. So wind forecasting models are contain three categories: physical, statistical, and the advanced model. Physical, like it depends like satellite model or NWP, numerical weather prediction models. They are, but they are because of this mathematically complexity. These type of the models are all like a limitation of the spatial temporal resolution. These type of the models are mostly suitable for the long-term forecasting, not suitable for the very short-term or short-term forecasting. For the very short-term or short-term forecasting, these models are very popular: statistical and the machine learning. So statistical are different regression model, decomposition, exponential smoothing, and very popular Box-Jenkins time series model. We are using this model. And advanced like multivariate models, vector autoregression, artificial neural network, bootstrapping time series, machine learning model. So this is the broad classification. And these are the different metrics or different evaluation metrics to compare the different models. Like we have the mean absolute error, mean square error, RMSE, and for the correlation or dependency, correlation coefficient, mean absolute percentage error. So these are the some matrices. Yes. Now, if you want to develop any forecasting model by using any like any method or any forecasting technique, this is the common procedure, or this is the very common forecasting procedure. So first of all, we have to define what is your problem. We want to forecast the load. We can forecast the prices, wind and solar power. We can define what is your forecasting horizon. It is the day-ahead forecasting, medium term, short term, and we also define our lead time. It's a step-ahead forecasting, 5-step, 10-step. According to we can define first. First we define the problem, then we collect the historical data of our related variable. Then, as you know, because of the instrumentation error, recording error, data sometimes there are some missing values. So we can take care about this missing values. Sometimes we let's check the data and missing value replaced by the average value. So we can prepare the data set. Then we analyze the data and we select the model. This is the procedure for the time series forecasting model. So based on the data is stationary or non-stationary, and what are the different component of the time series. Then we decide the appropriate model. And once you decide the model, then we estimate the parameter of the model by using the different methods. And if there are error in the parameter estimation, it is called the fitting error. So error in the parameter estimation should, for the good forecasting model, this fitting error should always be less than forecasting error. Then once you develop the model, estimate the parameters, we have the historical input data, then we find out, we predict, make the prediction, and like predict the variables like wind and solar. Then we also compare this prediction with the actual data and calculate the error. And based on this error, we can see the performance monitoring. What are the performance of this our developed model? Or for a good practice, we can test our model for a multiple data set or for the different locations. Because forecast, if you develop any model and you check the accuracy of the model is particular this value, but that is not sure if for all the type of the data or for the all the location your model give the same result, because there is a different nature of that input data. So to develop the robust model, there is we can test the model for the multiple data set and just we compare the results and evaluate what are the performance of the model. So that is the good that is okay. Now let me discuss here briefly the mathematics of time series model. So time series basically four type of the model, like autoregressive, moving average, autoregressive moving average model, and ARIMA, autoregressive integrated moving average model. These first three are applicable on the stationary time series, and another one is last one is applicable non-stationary. What is the mean of the stationary or non-stationary time series? If our data series like a their mean and like a mean and variance is a constant throughout the time, that time series is called the stationary time series, but they are not uh, uh, they are not constant. Then it's called non-stationary. And mostly our wind power output, they are non-stationary time series. So how we can convert this non-stationary stationary time series? We can take the differentiation or logarithm transformation to convert non-stationary time series to stationary time series. So differentiating can be used to stabilize the mean value, and this logarithm transformation used to stabilize the variance. Now these are the mathematical formulation of different time series model. The first one is the white noise. ET is the white noise or the random vector. Random it's with a constant mean, and it's a zero mean and one standard deviation. It's a normally distributed random variable, and C is a constant. So that is called the white noise. Now in the random walk model, you can see here we are not considering any historical value. Yt is the forecasted value at time t. But in the random walk, you can see we also consider what are our past observation, that is yt minus 1. But here the weightage is only 1. Now in autoregressive, we can define the weightage also. Order means we only here only we consider one value, single value, past observation. We can see t minus 1 time, t minus 2 time, t minus n time, or t minus p time. That is depending on the order. That is order of the autoregressive. And the parameter, the weightage of the historical values, that depends on what are their correlation, temporal correlation. So that we can calculate by using the ACF and PACF plot. So these weightage is the parameters. So phi 1, phi 2 are the parameter of coefficient of this autoregressive model. Now in the moving average, we also consider the previous error or error at t minus 1 time, t minus 2 time, t minus q time. So we can take the average moving, so that is called a moving average. And combination of these two autoregressive and moving average model, so that is the ARIMA model, autoregressive moving average. And if you take the differentiate of the series as input, so D is the degree of differentiation, so that is called the ARIMA model. Only this is the difference between ARMA and ARIMA, only degree of differentiation. Now we develop the ARIMA model in a R platform. R is a open source statistical tool software, and there are so many inbuilt functions are there we can directly use, and so many inbuilt packages also there. Not only time series but also the machine learning package also there, like a Python or like a Julia language. So this is the flow chart to for a simulation of the ARIMA model in AR. I already discussed the common part. Then we test that I just present a sample data series. So this you can see this is a sample of the wind speed data, and you can see this is not a stationary time series. If you calculate the mean for first 20 observation, next 20 and next 20, then you can see you got the different value. And variation is also not a constant. So this is the non-stationary time series. And we can take the one-time differentiation. Then you can see this is after the single time differentiation. This is the time series. And if you, so then you can see it is the more stable as compared to the previous one. Then we plot the ACF and PSF plot. This is actual. ACF and PSF, you can see ACF is the exponential decay. There is no relation. But in PSF, after the first lag, it will be all lag within the range. So it's a non-stationary, or based on this ACF plot, we can also identify if your ACF is exponential decay fast, then our series is non-stationary in the nature. If they're like this one, then it's a stationary time series. Now, based on this observation, it's a very simple method to estimate the order of ARIMA model. We already take the one-time differentiation, so D equals to 1. Then, based on this PSEF, we can decide the order of the autoregressive term. And based on the ACF, we can decide the order of the moving average term. After the any lag is cut off from this range, up to this cutoff, we can consider it, because this shows the correlation of the previous values. If the correlation is more than this limit, then it's a significant, or we have to consider it. So you can see after the first lag, it's within the range, or same here. So the order of this for our data set, the order of this model is the 1,1,1. Once you estimate the order, then you have to estimate the parameters by using the different method like Yon-Walker equations. And then we predict the values. So these are the predicted values by using the ARIMA and some other model like a K nearest neighbor. This is the table. You can see these are our actual values, and these are the predicted value by using the ARIMA model, linear regression, K nearest neighbor, and the artificial neural network. And from for this particular data, then you can see the ANN accuracy. The ANN is the most as better as compared to the linear regression, then ARIMA, and the K nearest neighbor. So, but this scenario or this figure may be different for the different data set. It will be maybe change if the data nature is a different. So it may be chances the KNN is the better more. So it's a depending on the what are the our input data. So as you can see, forecasting is never be accurate. There always somehow some error. Now, how we can make the decision based on because of this error? So so that is the like we are switching from this is you can see this is called the deterministic forecasting. We are predicting very single value for the single time step. No, we are not considering what are the possible error or what is the possible deviation from this forecasted value. So this is called the deterministic forecasting. If you consider what are
medical health है जो प्रसादीलाल मीणा बताओ क्या दे दिया ऊपर सेटिंग करा दी.
Yes. So as we know, the forecasting is never be accurate. So there are, if you consider what are the possible deviation from the forecasted values, so or what are the uncertain in the forecasting model. So that called the probabilistic forecasting. In probabilistic forecasting, like we estimate the PDF, forecast the continuous probability density function PDF for a next hour, next values. They can provide the what are the possible values with the occurrence probability. Or they are, we can discrete this continuous PDF, that is called the scenarios. Scenario is are the what are the possible outcome with the occurrence probability. They are the nothing but they are discretization of the continuous PDF, forecasted PDF. And also we can probabilistic forecasting, we can like in the form of the interval, in form of the density, or in the form of the quantile, that is the 5% confidence interval, 10%, 20%, 95%. So in the form of the quantile, that is we can also the quantile forecast. And probabilistic forecasting in the mathematical point of view or the decision point of view, it's a more better as compared to deterministic forecasting. So here I am discussing only the method for the uncertainty modeling. We are considering like a scenarios through scenario generation and the reduction. And like a for it like a to make the approximate exact representation like a continuous PDF, we are need to generate, or the better modeling of the uncertainty, we need to generate the large number of the scenarios. But if you solve this problem for the large number of scenarios, then our problem will be computationally intractable. Scenario means the values. So here you can see that we solve the model for the single value. Now the same model we are solved for the 1000 values. So you can see it's a repetition. So that repetition like create the computational burden in our problem. If problem size is very small, that is not an issue. But our power system, you can see like a power flow problem, or like this is not a smaller nature problem. So that's why we need to reduce the number of the scenarios. In our work to reduction of the scenarios, we are using the control distance matrix like a backward reduction approach that is based on the control reduction matrix. In this matrix, this basically scenario, basically we have 1000 scenarios, 1000 value with the occurrence probability. So in this like table, we are creating just calculate for the distance between the scenarios. So these are the distance between their values and with the multiplication of their probability. So like we have that like 1000 scenarios. So this size of this matrix is 1000 cross 1000. So that is like a make a distance matrix. And for the elimination of the scenarios, our algorithm just we are pick up the we just delete the scenario that have the minimum this minimum KD value. From this matrix, we can choose the scenario that have the minimum value, and we can delete this scenario. And the probability of the deleted scenario, we will add it to that nearest scenario. So that's why the probability of occurrence, the sum of the probability of the scenario, that should be always equal to the 1. Now this is the one of the result. You can see for a particular location, we are generating the 1000 wind power scenarios. This is the time and the number of scenarios 1000, and these are the power output. This is we are generating for the single turbine, or that capacity is the 2500 kilowatt or 2.5 megawatt. And these by using the backward reduction algorithm, we are reducing these 1000 scenario into the 10 scenarios. But our reduction should be in such a manner, the statistical property of the reduction scenario should be not too much vary from the main scenarios. It means the property should be maintained. Or from this diagram below one, you can see this is the density plot and the probability plot of generated and the reduced scenarios. So black one, you can see generated scenario, and red one is the reduced. Or in this diagram, you can see like a gray one is generated and red one is a reduced. Or they are both of the near to that is the reference line. Or there is no, you can see after the very huge reduction between the values 1000 to 10, but you can see the PDF is very less difference, very less deviation in this PDF, or there is statistical property are not very, does not change very significantly. So that is the reduction. Then for the simulation or for the decision making, we are using these reduced scenarios. Now, you can see first is the forecasting. We are using the different deterministic forecasting. Uncertainty modeling, we can use the scenario generation and reduction approach. Let me discuss the next problem, that is bidding strategy for a wind power producers in electricity market. So we consider the market structure. First we discuss wind power producers can bid as a price maker in a pool market, the electricity market. Pricing mechanism is a uniform pricing mechanism. Balancing market, that is imbalance settlement, and intraday we are not considered. Now, before discussing what is the problem formulation of this wind power producer, let me discuss the imbalance price mechanism, or that is the dual imbalance price mechanism that is very common in European electricity market. So in that mechanism, the imbalances prices are depends not only on your positive or negative deviation, it also depends on the system deviation. For example, first one you can see, suppose in our system already have the surplus generation, it means generation is greater than demand. In that time, if you produce the positive imbalance, it means suppose you contract in the head market is a 10 megawatt and you delivered 15 megawatt, you have delivered excess 5 megawatt, but system already in the surplus condition, we are not required this generation. But in our system, like our focus is we utilize the renewable power generation maximum. So so that if you deliver this 5 megawatt, excess of the 5 megawatt, then this excess power prices should be less than the market clearing price, and the downward prices, they are always less than market clearing price. Lambda T is the market clearing prices of the day-ahead market, and downward prices is less than market prices. So minimum prices we can offer for this because we are not required. And in that case, if you create the negative imbalance, for example, you supply, you deliver the 5 megawatt, you contract 10 megawatt, but deliver the 5 megawatt. There is a difference, 5 megawatt, negative side. So that time you get the penalty for this negative side according to the market clearing prices, lambda T. Or in opposite case, in opposite scenario, you can see now system have the deficit of the power. Already we have the shortage of the power. In that case, if you create the negative imbalance, it means in already system in the deficit of the power, and we deliver the 5 megawatt power less than minus 5. So we can also increase this deficiency. So in that time, we get the penalty is greater than lambda T and up prices. Up price mostly 1.2 or 1.5 time of these market clearing prices. So we get the penalty more than market clearing prices. Or in this opposite scenario, if you deliver, you create the positive imbalance during this period. You deliver the plus 5 megawatt. So you get the revenue for this plus 5 megawatt according to the market clearing prices. So in this type of the mechanism, you can see the imbalances penalty posed for the renewable power producers. They are depending depending on the system imbalance. So this is the dual imbalance price mechanism. And if you formulate, this is a very basic formulation of the wind power producer bidding strategy problem. Our objective function is maximize the profit of the wind power producers. Our lambda T is the expected, it's a market clearing prices. VC is the volume they contracted or the bidding, our bidding volume. And IC is the imbalance charges. And imbalance charges is the calculate, we have the calculate difference between our deliver and the contracted power and the charge rate. Charge rate depends on the our type of the imbalance price mechanism. Now, different from the conventional, you can see in a conventional, our objective function is to maximize the profit, but our minus the cost, that is our operation cost, or you recall the A plus B plus CP square, quality cost curve is there. But here, that is not cost because you can see there is no fuel cost for the renewable generators. So here the cost is the imbalance cost. But here you can also the plus sign here. If you deliver the power, it deliver power more than contracted, then like this is also the revenue. It's at like profit. If you deficient deliver less than contract, then it's like a cost. So this is the very simplest formulation of bidding strategy problem of wind power producers. The same problem we are tested on multiple wind farms. So we created the, consider the 3 wind farms, and they are equal in the capacity, 100 megawatt, and demand is the 300 megawatt. The peak value is the 300 megawatt, and we have forecasted. We created the 2 cases. First case, wind power producers are not bid known strategically. They just only depending on their forecasted value, and based on their forecasted value, they can bid. In the second case, we develop the Carnot model. They consider the rival behavior and bid strategically in a market. They are in which they are dominating. So we use the forecasting again. We ARMA model. These are the parameters. Now discussing here. Yeah. Results for the base case. Offered power according to forecasted values. They are imbalanced charges. Positive is revenue, negative is the penalties. These are the prices. MCP, positive imbalance price and negative imbalance price, and these are the profit. Similarly, calculate for the strategic case second. And we can see by using this strategic interaction or by bid strategically, the profit of the wind power producers are increased, rather than they are just bid only based on their forecasted information. So the strategic bidding or this like bidding can help to wind power producers to maximize their benefit, or they can participate in the market like a conventional power producers, or they can compete in the market. Now the third problem is the frequency related to the frequency response or frequency response mechanism in the low carbon or low inertia future grids. As you know, if you continuously increasing the grid integration of renewable or like non-rotating generators or inverter-based generator in a grid, then the inertia of the grid will be reduced, because earlier all generators are the synchronous machines, or they are rotating machine, they have the inertia capability. But because of this integration, you can see now the share of the renewable generators, inverter-based generators, is more as compared to the renewable generator is more as compared to the conventional generators in some countries. Then the inertia level, the grid will be decreased. Now, what happened because of this low inertia? Suppose this curve we can see this is system frequency during the normal condition. At this point, there is some contingency, or there are sudden we can say suddenly there are loss of generator. Then what happened? Our you can see our load is higher than demand. You can see the time in notice also the time values is that less 10 seconds. At this moment, when there is a contingency or the loss of the unit, our frequency start decreasing. Then the minimum point of this frequency, that is called the frequency at nadir, it depends on the system inertia, or the rate, or the what the rate of change of the frequency, which rate the frequency will be changed. It also depends on the system inertia. If system have the more inertia, then you can see less rate of change of frequency. Then at this moment, our inner generator, you can see generator start, the remaining generator start responding of these disturbances because of this inertia, and the energy store in the rotor of the machine, they will start delivering in the grid. So they can respond, automatically they can respond. So frequency start increasing, that is the primary frequency up to the 30 seconds. This response is provided by the conversion generators. Then our they come, you can see the frequency come to this point. Then our secondary response will be come into the picture after the 30 seconds, like a ADC control. So they can help to again increase the frequency and reach the frequency some steady state value. Then our reserve capacity can again to restore the frequency to the supply frequency, that is 50 Hertz after the 60 second or the 60 second 30 minute time. Now, what is the effect of renewable generator? Because of this renewable generator, now you can see our this one inertia will be decreased. The inertia will be less because of high penetration of renewable generators or non-synchronous generators. And because of the reduction, you can see yes, you can see the red, blue one is the with, you can see because of red color, you can see because of this low inertia, you can see the rate of change of frequency is also less, and also frequency nadir is also less. Because of the less inertia, you can see very large change on the frequency. And if the system does not have the inertia, then you can see the nadir point that this will never be the frequency, it will be never be arrest, or the frequency is continuously decreasing, or the system reaches to the blackout. No controller can be work. So how we can improve this? How we can integrate the renewable generators without having the synchronous generators machines? So now one more concept like a synthetic inertia, or sometimes it's called the virtual inertia concept. So now the most of the generators are like a wind and solar. They are integrated to the grid through the inverters. Not directly they are interfacing the grid. So in a grid inverters, there are some like a power electronics mechanism or some recent controller. They can mimic the output of these generators like a synchronous generators. Or they are during this contingency or during these conditions, these generators like behave like a synchronous generators. Or we are operating this generator like a less than their maximum power point tracking or maximum power point output, like MPPT controllers. So they can operate this with the less than MPPT maximum power point point. So that if you operate these generators in the maximum power point, so that decrement of this one is like a store energy, like we can throw up this energy in the grid, like a synchronous generators. So that concept is called a synthetic inertia. Or this one because of these controllers, like generators, like in order they can provide the synthetic inertia. Storage can provide synthetic inertia. So if you can see this additional, if you integrate the more renewable energy in the grid, we require the synthetic inertia capability. Otherwise, the grid will be never be or there are chances the grid will fail because of this contingency, or the frequency will be never stabilized. So this is the concept like frequency response and synthetic inertia. In our work, we are working on the inertial response of the conventional generators, and we schedule the generator considering the frequency response constraint. Like this is scheduling of the conventional generators, but in scheduling we also consider wind uncertainty. We consider the frequency response constraint between the rate of change of frequency and the frequency nadir and the reserve constraint. And in this work, we are modeling the uncertainty through the interval, modified interval forecasting. So interval means we are upper and lower bound forecast. Then further we categorize the intervals. It means from moving from odd to even or even to odd, and it's a decrement or increment in the generation. So in base we can categorize the intervals. So there it is N1, N2, N3, N4, N5. I think N4 and N5. So it depends. It depends. Is moving from odd to even or even to odd, increment or decrement. Base we can categorize this interval. So that is the modified interval. Or that save this categorization of this interval also save our computational time very drastically. It save the our computational time. These are the some result. We are implemented this on 24 bus system, IEEE 24 bus system on, and we are varying the different renewable power penetration 10%, 20 and 30%. And we compare the stochastic UC and the modified interval unit commitment or scheduling with and without PFR primary frequency response constraint. Then these are the results. You can see MIUC perform better as compared to the stochastic UC model. And in the time also you can see with PFR, you can see it's a large it's a decrement in the computational time. Stochastic is the better in terms of the uncertainty modeling. It's the better, but stochastic model is computationally complex. And for a real-time application, the time horizon is within the seconds or within the 5 minutes time horizon, 5 and 15 minutes. These model will be very complex. So that PFR model, like a MIUC model, can provide like better, like similar performance, but with a minimum computational time. This paper or this work is published in the IEEE Transition on the System Energy. Okay, so this is about my talk. Any query, please, you may ask. These two problems we are not discussing here, but related to the flexible RAM products, like we can see our issue the ramping requirement. If the variability in the renewable generation, so we need to ramping. So the fast ramping providers like hydro generators they have the, or like a gas turbine generators, they can participate in the ramp product market, or like a have to provide increasing or decreasing ramp. Net load is a difference between load and the total renewable generation. If you subtract load minus renewable generation, that is called the net load. Okay, this is over from my side. If you have any doubt, you may ask. Hello, Mr. Mathur. Am I audible? I'll check my internet connectivity file. Hello.
Yes.
Yes, sir. This is all from my side.
Okay. Okay. Lecture is over.
Now it is open for the query session. If any participant have any doubt, you may ask.
Okay, please. I hope all participants are satisfied, and I think they have no query. To do the next formalities.